Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Wow Cool Robot podcast. I am your host, Adam, as always, joined by my two friends, Galen.
Ahoy, hoy.
And Noel.
Hello again.
And this month we are talking about Rah-Rah-RahXephon. And Rah-Rah-RahXephon, as you know, is the not Evangelion, but still shares a lot of similarities with Evangelion. And we follow the story of a young man named Ayato Kamina. No, not that one. As he learns who he is and his place in the grand scheme of things, as an organization called Terra fights a dimension hopping race of aliens known as the Mu. So, as always, before we get down into the details and setting and characters and everything as a whole, what did we think of Rah-Rah-RahXephon?
I enjoyed it. It's a tough one to get into, and I can see how a lot of people would not give it a chance. But having watched it, I look forward to rewatching it eventually.
Yeah, I do plan to go back and rewatch it at some point eventually, because I have heard that this is one you need to watch twice to really get everything.
Yeah, for me, I think I enjoyed what I watched, but overall, I didn't really like it because I feel like I didn't really like any of the characters.
They're all kind of it was a little bit confusing at first, because the whole setup is that, or I guess one thing I should get out of the way, before. So this gets compared a lot to Evangelion, and I totally understand it. Because this came out in 2002. Evangelion aired in 97, 98.
Yeah, so it was like a 5-year difference.
Yeah, there's for a lot of people, I can totally get this is just an Evangelion imitation, because there's a character who is literally just not Misato Katsuragi. There is... You've got an organization on Earth fighting aliens, and in the background there's an even shadier organization. There's the city that Ayato lives in, Tokyo, is covered in this barrier, which is totally not an AT field. There are disgusting Lovecraftian looking giant alien beings. There are robots that are maybe not robots but are actually real.
Repurposed Lovecraftian beings.
Yeah, repurposed Lovecraftian beings.
And there was also a worldwide phenomenon that was not the third impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ends with the whole world getting reformatted, and there's a bunch of clones everywhere.
Yeah. Because Ayato lives in Tokyo, but unbeknownst to him, Tokyo is enveloped in this shroud that the rest of the world calls Tokyo Jupiter. And Tokyo is separated from the rest of the world. And in Tokyo, everyone believes that the entire world was just deleted from existence. And Tokyo is the only thing that's left.
Yeah, because I think Ayato was surprised when Haruka said there's 6 billion people in the world.
Yeah,
and he thought there was only 26 million.
Yeah, he thought the entire world was just the population of Tokyo. But little does Ayato know he is integral to a mysterious giant mechanical fighting machine called the Rah-Rah-RahXephon, of which he is the instrumentalist, and he is rescued from, well, maybe not rescued, but he is taken from Tokyo Jupiter by a organization dedicated to fighting this group of trans-dimensional aliens called the Mu. They're called Terra, and they launched an operation to take him out of Tokyo Jupiter and get him into the real world so they can focus on fighting the Mu and end the sort of war they've had with them once and for all. So other than Evangelion, which is what this gets compared to, it's also a spiritual successor to a show called Brave Raiden, which I've never seen. and don't know anything about. So if you've seen it, maybe you can add some input on that. Whoever,
Just looking at the design for Raideen, I can see like a lot of similarities that they took
Yeah.
from that mecha design.
Yeah, I could see a lot of similarities in that.
Yeah, it like even has like has like a bow and arrow, and kind of like a laser sword as well, or a sword.
And
Yeah.
think it also has the enemy being the Moo.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Mu all have blue blood, which sort of catches his Ayato off guard when he sees that for the first time. And then there are other side characters, like, again, like another, like, you know, like comparison to Evangelion is like in Terra, like all the people who are in the sort of like battle room when something's going down reminds me exactly of like the nerve center and like all the other scientists who were there who would provide support when like they were doing operations in Evangelion. Like it's just like it in so many different ways, but I think a lot of the comparisons are very much
it's like surface level.
Yeah, it's all very much surface level in terms of like character dynamics, relationships, setting, plot. Even a few story events I was able to sort of predict because I had seen Evangelion before this. But whereas Evangelion sort of focuses on like the bleakness and despair of everything, Razafon focuses more on like personal relationships and things like that.
And it's a lot more hopeful overall. Like,
yeah, it is a lot more hopeful overall.
And like a lot of the characters, you can definitely see them as being very similar to the Evangelion characters, but with a lot fewer mental issues and just issues in general. And it also actually has a happy ending, I think.
Yeah, because I think like Evangelion focuses on the mental, like several mental illnesses, and then like how those characters like try to cope with those illnesses as well.
Yeah. So Ayato is rescued from Tokyo Jupiter, and he spends a little bit of time. He escapes with the Razafon with the help of a mysterious girl named Reika Mishima, which is somebody he remembers to have known before, but everyone else around him thinks he's got a screw loose because they have no idea who Mishima is. They're not even sure if she existed in the first place. And he escapes with a woman from Terra named Haruka Stowe, which I keep reading her last name is Shit Show.
I was always thinking it as Shitao.
Yeah, Shitao. Like, but every time I glance at it, I just read it as Shit Show, and they escape.
I mean, she's basically the Masato of the story, so it's not inaccurate.
Yeah, especially given what happens later in the series in regards like, oh, I'm interested in this other person who works at Terra. Nope, they're with somebody else. Okay, I'm interested in this person. Sorry, that person isn't, with it either. So
I also wanted to mention with everybody thinks he has a screw loose with the girl Reika that nobody else thinks exists. Back in Tokyo Jupiter, when he was trapped, there were a few instances of him interacting with her, and it all so heavily foreshadows like, oh yeah, he's only seeing her when it's just him and her, and it's always in weird situations where it doesn't seem like she should be there. But then the following scene is in class and he's talking with his friends, and she walks up to talk to them and they interact with her, so it completely throws you off. But then in the real world, she's just weird, mysterious figure who keeps appearing in high places and vanishing.
Yeah. And then that one time she led them into that like temple or whatever, and he was only in there for like 5 minutes or whatever, but like days had passed in the real world and everybody thought he went missing.
My God, it's Gunbuster all over again.
Yeah.
but instead of a space being like a different time, it's just like a different dimension.
Yeah, it's just a different dimension where like this is a show where like the time skip and the anime exist at the same time in the same place. Speaking of characters, there are a lot of different side characters that Ayato interacts with, and a lot of side characters that fall in love with him. Makes it hard to keep track of for a while there.
Yeah, it's basically a love the decahedron.
Yeah.
Like that.
Thankfully, there was a relationship with chart we found, which I'm guessing we'll probably link in the description.
Oh, yeah.
I'll link it in the description. And it shows all the different relationships that different characters have with Ayato. So they escape from Tokyo Jupiter. He brings the Rah-Raph with him. He spends a little bit of time before Terra shows up to collect them with Haruka, and they meet a cat named Bushi who shows up everywhere.
But based on our basic understanding of, plot setup, as much as he appears, you just know he's got some really big, important, deeper meaning to the show. No, he doesn't.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. It's weird because I was totally expecting that to happen at some point with everything else that they had done.
I think they just wanted a mascot in the show.
Yeah, that might be what it is.
Also, with the pattern on the cats, he kept looking like he had a Hitler haircut. Kind of like, I don't think I ever mentioned in the episode on it, but in Gundam Wing in the movie, when it's the new bad guy organization that are basically all Nazis and all their ground troops are dressed like the Hitler Youth. I was like, okay, that's a bit on the nose there. But yeah, so we've got Hitler Cat, who isn't actually important, surprisingly.
No. He's just there. He's kind of like what Pin the Penguin was to Evangelion, just maybe not as smart.
That's right, I forgot there was the penguin in Evangelion.
Yeah, Pin, who's smart enough to get stuff from the fridge.
Yeah, but I feel like the penguin knew more than he leads on or something like that.
Yeah. So then we get introduced to Terra, and Terra is an organization in the real world dedicated to the actual world outside of Tokyo Jupiter to dedicated to fighting the Mu, who do offensive stuff against them with these big stone-like beings called dolems, and they all look really really weird, but they all still maintain a human face, and it's up to Ayato and the Rah-Raph to fight them. And it is revealed later that that there are people in Tokyo Jupiter that are linked to these dolems.
So basically, if you kill a dolem, you're basically killing another person.
Which the reveal of that, which comes much later than you'd expect, is really well done. I will give it that.
Yeah.
But I feel like they kind of hinted, but in the earlier episodes when Ayato first fights a few of those dolems.
Yeah.
And it kind of pans to these two girls that had those masks.
Yeah, they're floating holograms.
Yeah, and whenever the dolems get hit, they would scream. I think they kind of allude to it earlier in the beginning, but they don't flat out state hey, basically someone's gonna die when you kill them.
Yeah, because you can watch how their body reacts when the dolem gets hit. And I guess the whole point of their attacks is to sort of assimilate the rest of the world to make the world of the Mu and the world of the humans as one whole thing. And Ayato is key to that because he is the quote-unquote instrumentalist or the pilot of the Rah-Raph, who his ultimate end goal is to carry out that transition. And in between, we learn his personal feelings on that. And around that time when he first meets Terra, he basically just get locked up in that room. Yeah, and then because they found out he has the Mu phase, and then was it the commander?
Like, that like when Haruka like asked like the commander why he's locked up, and then the commander says like he has all the information in that like the computer next to him, but he just chooses to like draw and doodle. And the kind of like that scene kind of is important because throughout the show, Ayato doesn't ask any questions.
No.
He's just pretty chill.
Yeah, he kind of just goes along with everything.
He is fully willing to get in the damn robot.
Yeah, like he doesn't like question like why am I doing this? Oh, I'll just do it.
I mean, he does question it a few times, and he does sort of run off in angst for a while, but he sort of comes out of it on his own. So
Yeah.
Which then pisses off the one lady at the end who, why are you so calm all the time? And she just peels out of the guy's parking lot in her car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does like there. So, and then he meets this other scientist man who has a sister. I think he calls her named Quan, and Quan is just like a whole other like can of worms herself. She speaks in like she honestly just kind of speaks in tongues, and she refers to Ayato as Olin.
Yeah, and then she hums a lot.
Yeah, she hums a lot. She sings a lot, which is something else that's interesting because the Dolums sing, and they sing like their death song or whatever, and they all the Dolums have names that are like falsetto and vibrato, and you know, and all that. And if you're a music nerd, you know what that means. So that's a really neat touch, I thought.
Yeah, because like all like the stuff that relates to like the Rah-Rah-RahXephon, like all their terms are like music terminology.
Yeah, it's all music terminology. There's some like Mayan terminology thrown in there as well.
There's actually an interesting thing that they keep mentioning something that happened specifically in 2012, which is in the show now the past, and
Oh yeah,
and then right near the end it's revealed like, aha, it's the 2012 this, yes, at the end of the Mayan calendar, that's when all of this was set in motion, which was probably more of a twist before 2012 happened and we all were aware of the meme.
Yes. Another group of side characters that are also at Terra that we get introduced to is a woman named Elvi, who is like a fighter pilot, and she led the air operation to get Ayato out of Tokyo Jupiter, and she was the only one to make it back, so she has a little bit of resentment towards him. And then she gets some new squad mates later on who are handily divided into Texan, Asian, and black man. Yeah, like it's weird because their first interaction, like when they get introduced and they're all sort of meeting each other for the first time, it's slightly racist. Because the American Texan lady like refers to the Asian guy in like a manner of like I don't remember what she said verbatim, but like it's something to the effect of "I've never met someone so yellow." Yeah. It's pretty bad.
But she's also constantly wearing a cowboy hat to remind you that she is in fact American.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like they go full on with all the tropes.
Yeah, they do.
And then Elvie herself, the main pilot lady, she's Indonesian, I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah, they mentioned that her nickname is Rose Blossom in Indonesian.
Let's see, who else is there?
Oh yeah, and then they introduced Haruka's sister Megumi.
Yeah, Haruka's sister Megumi, who is another point on the dodecahedron that is the love plot for Ayato.
Well, first she has a crush on the assistant commander, who is also there. Like, he's one of those characters who's really important because he's linked to stuff happening, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and he also seems pretty chill as well, like because like his girlfriend, like Kim, who's only like important for like
Yeah.
one episode.
She's important because she's his girlfriend, so Megumi is now sad because he's taken. Which she did not know, but apparently everybody else did. And there's some angst. God, there's like 4 whole episodes in a row just focused on their tangled love lives and how everybody's just really sad. Oh, and then is it at this point that we meet the one guy from the organization who everybody refers to as a snake?
Oh yeah, she was. He was also introduced with Quan, I think.
Makoto.
Yeah, Ishiki. Yeah, that guy. He's part of some foundation that like works in the background behind Terra and like the Earth Federation.
Yeah, like he's there to like just like do research on the Rah-Rah-RahXephon.
Yeah. And then after a while, there's a point where they show like that there's like an entire episode that takes place like in the past to show like the backstory of like him and the Foundation with these 3 kids.
I also find it interesting. Like it's like they show that flashback like really late into the series.
Yeah.
Like it was like really interesting, but like it kind of just shows like how they were like as kids, but that doesn't really affect the story at all.
No. Interesting things about them are added either before that or after that. It's like, oh, like you do learn that Makoto, because in the past they were at some boarding school, except actually it was a thing to train them because they're all clones with some purpose. It's complicated, but the important thing is that they found a half-baked golem, and they were protecting it until it got found out, and he tried to ride it to freedom, but then it just collapsed, and now he's just super bummed all the time.
Yeah, because like he wanted to like leave with the golem to find their mothers, and then like basically like after they reached like a certain point away from the mansion, like it crumbled, and then at that point like his whole mindset changed.
And also he was reportedly told that of the potential instrumentalists, which is what they were being trained to be, he was a rank D. The others were rank A and B, but he's just a D. He's much more useless than them, but he still kind of has use, so he's allowed to be there. And he's got a complex.
I can relate to that. Something else that's also that there's there are a couple episodes that that like the one that I think of immediately is the one where he is fighting the Golem, and it sort of like sucks him into a like sort of like nightmare reality where he's back in Tokyo Jupiter, but nothing makes any sense and it's all weird. Like throughout that entire episode, it has a different aspect ratio. Which I
yeah. I think they did that for like that episode was like episode 12, and then they went back and did that for like the last episode as well.
Yeah, they did it for Nightmare, and they did it for the final episode.
The final episode also, for at least a good chunk of it, was in mostly black and white, like just with a few highlights.
So this series kind of went with the art series as well. As like Gunbuster.
God, it is Gunbuster all over again.
Yeah, it is. Now that I think about it.
But we forgot to mention the best character in the show. The reporter guy, who's apparently the only person who has any idea what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was like his name is Joji Futagami.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's basically the only one that asks questions.
Yeah. The only one who asks questions and the only one who like gets to the bottom of anything and actually figures stuff out.
But he only shows up like very sparingly.
Yeah.
He shows up really early on as some bumbling reporter who's here to do a report on this cool island that the base is on and about how Terra is doing their best to fight off the evil monsters. And then he just manages to wind up chatting with absolutely everyone and constantly hinting that he knows more than he's letting on, and then nudging them to figuring out stuff.
Because like he has like access to like he got all the way to like the Rah-Rah-RahXephon at one point as well. Yeah. Like it's like how did you get inside there?
He's just got like a laminated card that says "I'm allowed" on a lanyard.
Pretty much.
Well, basically, if you pretend if you pretend that you're supposed to be there, no one's gonna question it.
Yeah. If you act confident, you can get away with anything.
Moral of the story, kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
So see, after that.
So yeah, turns kind of monster of the week for a while.
Yeah, because it's just Ayato and Terra fighting different Dolems that show up.
Because I think around that time they kind of just try to develop the characters a little bit, like their relationships and bit by bit.
Yeah.
We get, I think, more than a few episodes with not any fighting at all, just everybody meeting each other and
discussing things and
having spats and
Yeah.
getting all angsty over how the cute boy doesn't like them.
Yeah.
But then we have the big reveal that the main character, who's able to pilot this ancient robot, like all these other people with blue blood, he also is a person with blue blood. Gasp.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which he overhears a character having an argument with the pilot lady. And he blurts it out, and he wasn't supposed to say it to her, and he wasn't supposed to say it to Ayato, who happened to be overhearing it. And it was because she had like dropped her handkerchief or something, and he was returning it to her.
Yeah.
And then the pilot lady like has like a strong like hate towards the Millions because of like her crewmates dying.
Yeah.
And now she's trying to like deal with the fact that Ayato's a Million.
Yeah.
Now she's conflicted.
Yeah.
And he's also all conflicted, and he's convinced that everybody hates him now. And one thing leads to another, and he decides to steal the Rah-Rah-RahXephon and go back to Tokyo Jupiter.
Yeah, he goes back to Tokyo Jupiter with Quan. And that's where he learns a lot of stuff about like who his mother actually is.
Because like I think like the mom that he thinks is his mom is actually his adoptive mother, and then his actual mother.
Well, at the end, by the end, everybody's related to everybody else somehow.
At some point,
it's really convoluted.
It is.
And then it's also weird that like half of the people that like him are like they're also related to him. Like they're kind of like niece and nephews, like basically like cousins.
Yeah. Nieces, nephews, cousins, aunts, uncles, father, brother, son, like everyone.
Mother / sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can probably just like remake this.
Japan. So, also while he's in Tokyo Jupiter, he meets back up with his friends, who we met right at the beginning for, like an episode and a half before he escaped.
Yeah, Mamoru and Asahina.
And Mamoru, who was sort of the cool surfer dude type of guy, turns out he's a huge dick. Which was just a bunch of hints towards it.
Yeah.
But you can tell he's actually a dick and probably working with the bad guys. And definitely working with the bad guys. And Asahina, meanwhile, for some reason, him coming back means that she now realizes all the weird stuff going on. Because when he...
it kind of doesn't really explain like why she's the only one that like kind of remembers when something is wrong. Did they explain that at all?
It might... But yeah, the Mulians have all sorts of weird things going on, and the clay robots floating around, and they're just mind controlling everybody to not notice it. And for whatever reason, after he shows up, or just before, she starts noticing it. And as he's about to escape, she tackles him and is like, take me with you. And he does.
Because it's kind of weird, like she's like the only one, no one else. Well, I guess like she had like a relationship with like
Yeah,
Ayato.
she's one
Maybe
of
that's
the
why, but
many people who are in love with him.
Yes.
And so he escapes from Tokyo Jupiter again, which he was actually chasing Quan, who escaped ahead of him to God knows where. So he escapes with Asahina, and since he stole the Rah-RahXephon and ran away from Terra, he is now a man on the run.
Yes. And they pawn both of their watches and get like
for $500 or like 50,000 yen or something.
yeah, 50,000 yen.
500
How
bucks.
much is that in US? Yeah.
Yeah, $500. Which is a lot for like pawning a watch.
Yeah, for 2 watches. That's like $250 a piece. So it must have been pretty good watches.
Yeah, because I feel like that on the run episode was like I think one of the series' like
Such a
strongest
strong
episodes
episode.
as well.
Yeah. Because they buy different outfits. They get a bus ticket. They get a hotel room. After just like abandoning the Rah-RahXephon in the woods. Because, that's what you do with your, big mechanical
They sank it into the reservoir.
robot.
Come on.
You just... Yeah. Yeah, but they still do. Wait.
Did you guys notice when it sinks to the sinks down? It was
I
doing the
did not
Gynax
notice
pose?
that.
I did not notice that either.
Yeah, because it had its arms crossed.
Come on, this is. You got to remember, this isn't Gundam Wing. You can't just find 5 palm fronds and put them over top, and nobody notices it's there.
Yeah, so they sink it into the reservoir. They buy a bus ticket. They buy different outfits, and they spend some time in a hotel room about Chicka Wow Wow. And
And she realizes that she's also a Mulian.
yes, and about that time, they are attacked by a Dolem who looks like it's wearing a hoodie and is covered in a very suspicious way that also looks exactly like Asahina. And you go, And then you watch the fight between Ayato and that Dolem happen, and then you see what happens to Asahina, and you go, oh.
Yeah, basically, as Ayato was fighting him, like Asahina could feel every like blow,
Yeah.
and then like she, on like her dying breath, she goes. She writes like she loves him on like on her notebook.
Yeah, she's getting the absolute hell beat out of her, and he doesn't even know
Just
it.
prior to this, he was saying, I'll go this. I will keep you safe. I'm not going to lose anyone. I'm going to fight this Dolem to protect you.
Yeah, and as she's getting the hell beat out of her, she's like desperately trying to write down that she loves him.
Yeah, and even like that note was even shown on the lights on buildings as well.
That was such a great touch that it's these pulses of light are coming out of the Dolem, and like the after effect is all the lights and stuff in town start showing the message that she's writing. And this is an actual thing, like people are noticing the messages, and the reporter guy who's trying to track them both down, he stops and sees this message as she's writing it out. And as he deals the final blow, it's this big top-down view of the city, and the lights of the entire city are I love you, goodbye, and the last letter trailing off, like this whole line of lights trailing off into the distance. And then it cuts back to her slumped over on the desk, and her last note with the last letter trailing off. As she died as she was doing the last letter, which was such a nice touch. Gah. Such a hit.
Yeah, because I think I just realized that like Ayato has like the trope of like being the oblivious protagonist.
Yeah.
Because like he doesn't know like how anyone like near him
They also
feels about him.
wait until one or the other is about to die before they admit their love to him. Like everybody's really cagey about it. They aren't making things easy.
And that's where the reporter man, the guy who only knows anything that's happening, uses his deductive reasoning to figure out where they've gone. And right as he gets to him, Terra also gets to them as well.
Was it Terra or the Foundation?
Yeah.
No, it was the Foundation because the first person he like talks to when they get back is like Ishiki.
Snake Man.
Yeah, but but I feel like the reporter guy has like
Yeah, he
like
is part of the
close ties
Foundation.
to the Foundation, right?
Yeah.
But those are like the extra sketchy guys from the Foundation. So they drag him back to the Terra base, and Snake Eye is also now the boss of Terra.
Yeah,
Yes.
but basically he just says like I have authority to do whatever I want.
And then he appoints like Haruko as like his second in command, and then like right before the big final operation happens, he just fires her.
Yeah,
again.
because you.
No, she got fired because she went with LV back to Tokyo Jupiter to try to get Hayato.
And then she
back.
actually sent him a message saying
that was
that they'll throw you in jail and execute you if you stay. Go, get away from here. But no, then he got her as his secretary, sort of as punishment. Like, you do what I say, or else you'll go to jail forever. And then as she's sitting there taking notes on what he's saying, it shows what she's drawing, and it's actually just a caricature of him as a snake. And then it comes to, yeah, you're fired. You should know why. Why is that? And he shows her the picture that she drew, which I thought was really nice. and also at this time, once he becomes the boss, then there's a new person shows up, a new rookie who's working there, and it's Reika. Except she's saying her name is Haruka. And yeah.
I wonder why.
And Ayato is like, wait a minute, don't I know you? No, you do not. What's your name? Haruka. He's like, okay. And then she's just there being the secretary of the Isaki.
Yeah. So like, and what I thought was really funny is like later on, as like the big battle gets underway, and they go to like relieve Ishiki of like command because he's doing a shit job. He starts talking about like, oh, like my secretary Haruka, and everyone looks at him like, what are you talking about?
You fired her, remember?
Yeah. It's like, she's been here this whole time. It's like, and they're like, dude, what do you mean?
No, the other Haruka. What other Haruka?
Yeah.
And now he's locked in a room drawing crazy things with a chunk of mud with his hair in it. Which was his memento from that one time he really, really, really failed to save the day in the past.
Yeah. They launch a big operation to release Tokyo Jupiter from within his like housing, and they do it, but then like at that same time a bunch of Dolem like warships appear all over the world, and
because
they're like,
it turns out
join
that
with us or else.
Well, it turns out that cage wasn't to keep everybody out; it was to keep them in.
Yeah. Because then, like, join with us or else you have, like, 24 hours. If you don't, this is what happens. And, like, it shows, like, one of them just laying waste to an entire city in a blink of an eye.
And also, apparently, the Foundation figured out that was what was going to happen. And they told Ishiki to stop the plan. And he got the memo and was like, hey, secretary, move up the plan by an hour. We need to do this early. And then everything fell apart. He's like, no, I can't believe that I failed spectacularly again. And that's why I got canned.
Yes.
And then basically, like, the commander comes back into the story and then assumes command from Soichi, right?
Yeah.
And basically he basically just regains command just to do a suicide mission.
Yeah, their island is about to be blown up, so it sends everybody away. And he stays to pilot the remote-controlled planes, which have never accomplished anything.
I realized something we forgot to mention, speaking of remote-controlled planes, is that I think, like, after the halfway point in the story, but before Ayato goes back to Tokyo Jupiter, the Foundation gives Terra like this new super weapon, that is
Yep.
Yeah, it was called Vermilion.
the Vermilion, which is like a pilot, which is like a robot you can pilot
Cool.
that is meant to be like on pace with the Rah-Rah-RahXephon or whatever. Even though with the first time they use it, LV, she pilots it and they barely make it by the skin of their teeth with using the Vermilion. She's like, oh, finally we can, beat them. We don't need him anymore. And then
and then for some reason it kind of looks like the Rah-Rah-RahXephon.
yeah, kind of it looks suspiciously like the Rah-Rah-RahXephon. And during the final battle, like they've mass produced the same model as Vermilion, and now like other pilots other than LV have them, and it's like revealed as they're like fighting the Mu that these are actually just, again, another comparison to Evangelion. These are just
Mass produced.
mass produced Mu creatures that have been like encased in like metal or whatever.
And had a cockpit stuffed in them so they could be piloted.
Yeah, and it had a.
And also, as soon as there's more than the one, they start getting blown up left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically all of them just, that episode, they just like all die.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire group. Well, and before that, like the Asian pilot dies and he telegraphs his death totally clearly to the audience. Like he's like, because it's revealed that he has a thing for LV, and it's like, yeah, when I get back, I'll give you the handkerchief and we'll go on that date. And then it cuts to the Always Sunny text. He did not come back.
LV doesn't go on a date.
Or it cuts to the what's the credits are like dum dum
Curb your expectations. Curb your enthusiasm.
Curb your enthusiasm. Or the Eric Andre show. We'll be right back. Dun, 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 dun. So
I'm trying to remember. Who else was it that died and it was super duper telegraphed?
Yeah, I felt it was him, right? And then who else died?
It was him, but there was another one.
No, it was
Like he was the worst that he stopped just short of saying that this was his last flight mission before he retired.
Are you talking about Hiroko?
Oh yeah, no, that's a bit
we
later.
talked about that. Or
All right.
yeah, that's a bit later.
who was it then? Do you remember who you're talking about?
Yes, the final mission when everybody promises they'll definitely come back safely.
Oh yeah, basically. Basically LV and his like and her like pilot crew, basically.
Yeah.
But
Oh no!
Yeah,
It was
the assistant commander and his girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah, Soichi.
And he promises that this will all go fine. I promise I'll be back to you. And also Ayato promises to Haruka. And
then one of them doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Soichi doesn't make it, and like Ayato fuses with the Rah-Rah-RahXephon and becomes like the great being he was always meant to be. And the same thing also happens with Quan, and then they do something that's supposed to be like a duet, but really it's just like them just screaming at each other and like
Because it's just like they had to like work together.
Yeah.
It was just basically one absorbing the other.
yeah, and they're just kind of like screaming at each other and throwing each other towards the ground. Like it was a little bit confusing exactly what was happening there.
Yeah, it seemed like from all the stuff they were talking about, that they had to work together and like to tune the world. But like,
and let's
just
not
kinda
forget
seemed like
that in the middle of all of this, the Foundation finally reveals their plan, that they orchestrated all of this because the instrumentalist becoming tuned and getting into the Rah-Rah-RahXephon means it'll basically reshape the world and get away from the bad ending of this great visual novel of life they're on and swap it to the good ending. And the one guy, Ishiki, who was disgraced and then failed, and then he breaks out of prison and confronts them, and everybody just starts shooting each other back and forth, and random people keep popping up, and it's like the Dear Sister skit from Saturday Night Live. I expected What You Say to start playing in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was, I think it was like Itsuki like shoots like the Foundation leader.
But it turns out
And then, like,
he had already body swapped into Helena, the other woman who we did not mention
then like
at
his
all.
assistant shoots Itsuki,
Yeah.
and then Itsuki retaliates and shoots her in the head.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they both die.
Yeah.
And then his friend shows up.
Like his research assistant Sayoko, and
No, that's Itsuki shows up. Itsuki Kisaragi, the science guy, who I think we also didn't mention at all.
oh yeah,
And then and then he shoots the assistant lady, and then he's about to shoot Helena, and then his ex-girlfriend shows up and stabs him.
Yes.
And is really sad about it.
and then like the Foundation leader like inside Helena's body like tells like the research assistant like she's a clone or something. She was like
no.
a virgin. Her name was like a number.
Yeah. Is that Helena was? No, I think that's her taunting the science guy, Itsuki. Because he was one of the 3 kids in the Foundation backstory episode.
Yeah, but no, because I think like Sayoko, aren't those like 3 numbers? Like Sa.
Yeah, it's a pun on numbers in Japanese, because Japanese is a language made entirely of puns.
Yes.
But so she taunts them all, and she's the last survivor. And then she walks out, and then the reporter guy shows up, who by this point we've learned is actually a Foundation agent. And then and then after she goes on about, haha, everything has worked according to plan. I am now the god of this world because I've brought about its recreation. And he's like, yeah, very impressive. And then he shoots her. And then he wanders off to, I don't know, get some takeout or something.
Yeah, because I think that was like the last time we see them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Ayato and Quan have their bout after they've fused to become the instrumentalists that they were supposed to be, and Ayato resets the simulation one last time to a timeline where he and Haruka were never actually separated because of the incident, and they're now married together and have a child who for some reason is also Quan. And
and then like older Ayato looks like Itsuki for some reason as well.
Because Itsuki was a clone of him, in case the original didn't work out.
I feel like they made him look the same just to like pound the notion that like that Itsuki was a clone. They didn't have to like give him the exact hairstyle.
Yeah, it's he looks older and he sort of has that face, and also he has the same dumb hairstyle.
That reminds me, like Itsuki's hairstyle, it looks like Troa's.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it does.
It does, yeah.
I think another thing I want to talk about is like the love dodecahedron.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
because
Who
like
all is in love with Ayato?
so it was Asahina, it was Haruka, who's like 12 years older because of the Tokyo Jupiter thing.
Yeah, turns out in the end that she was his childhood sweetheart, but then she happened to be out of Tokyo when it was captured in the bubble. And because the time travels 6 times faster outside the bubble than inside the bubble, when he finally escapes with her help, there's now a 12-year difference. But then they fall in love again, and he promises, I need to go to this final battle, but I love you, and we just had a romantic kiss. I'll be back for you. He sort of is, so props to him there.
I also find it funny that like both Asahina and Haruka have the same exact scene with Ayato, where both of them say, "I'll wait for you," and then he leaves.
And then things go poorly.
Yeah, because like it's kind of weird, like because like Haruka still loves him even though like he's still younger. I find that's kind of like
she waited for him this whole time.
But and also like his sister Megumi also
her sister,
loves
Haruka's sister.
Oh yeah,
Megumi.
Haruka's sister.
And his sister Quan also loves him. His sister / mother / daughter, depending on which timeline we're looking at.
Yeah, because I feel like Megumi is the most composed out of all of them. Because
she really is.
Yeah, because like she was mature enough to like say, "Hey, I don't love you anymore," even though she does, and just like to show so that her sister doesn't worry about her like loving Ayato or something like that.
So the series ends with everything being reset and everybody lives happily ever after.
Yep, and that
supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because another thing is I'm not sure about is like if Ayato knows anything that happened before the world got reset. Yeah. It's kind of vague.
I don't think so. Like there's like the lingering memories that there was always that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then at the very end it gives the final little touch where it turns out Ueka, who kept appearing in high places, being mysterious, the form she took, because she was actually the spirit of the Rah-Rah-RahXephon or whatever, what she looked like was how Haruka looked when Ayato first met her. And this painting that he keeps painting all throughout the series, with slight variations, was her in a yellow dress standing on a rock looking out over the sea.
Yeah, I also found it funny that like when the first time they met, they found out they're actually like related, but they're still into each other.
Oh, of course, Japan.
Yeah,
come on, we've had so much worse.
There's even
because Ayato says like, oh, I'm here because my what was like his dad was like looking for ruins.
Yeah,
and then she says like, oh, I'm here because my uncle is looking for ruins as well.
Yeah, there's like an after credit scene at the end of the final episode that shows like the actual meeting of like them happening. When it actually happened, which I thought was a neat touch. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Rah-Rah-RahXephon in a nutshell.
If it sounds confusing, that's because it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like overall I think it was enjoyable, but like I feel like the characters weren't that likable, and then like I feel like there wasn't really like an antagonist.
Yeah.
Like it was just like they were just going through the motions of the story without like having like a solid like thing to overcome or something like that.
Rah-Rah-RahXephon, it's definitely not a favorite, but I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would going into it. Because the one thing I'd always heard is like, oh, you know, this shares a lot of similarities with Evangelion. And this is before I knew that like all those similarities were just like basically surface level. And when I heard it was like Evangelion, it kind of made me like a little bit wary because for me, like I've seen Evangelion, I've seen End of Evangelion, I've seen all of the rebuilds, the ones that are out anyways. And I really have nothing to say about Evangelion other than, yeah, it's all right. Like I know and I know it has a big impact on
pun intended.
Yes, pun intended. Very funny. Very funny. On anime as a whole or whatever. And I know it means a lot to a lot of people, but for me, I can't say anything about Evangelion other than, yeah, it's pretty good. And so that's why I was a little bit wary about Rah-Rah-RahXephon going into it, but it definitely has enough of a leg to stand on its own, separate from Evangelion. And what I think is something I also thought was kind of interesting is like the two other shows we've covered so far are shows that I would like consider to be pillars of like the mecha genre as a whole. Like, you know, Gundam Wing was the first Gundam show in the West, and Gunbuster was the first outing for Gainax, and there's a lot of stuff that's like inspired by it. I would consider like those two shows to be like, you know, pillars of the genre, but like but Rah-Rah-RahXephon is different in that it's not a pillar of the genre, but it's like a byproduct of one, and you get to see what somebody thought of when they looked at Evangelion and said, I wonder how I can do that but different. So, and it is for that reason that I personally would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, but I think I would recommend it just with like a caveat that like make sure that you know that it's like a slow burn.
Yeah, it does take a little bit
Because
to get going.
Don't expect like
Yes.
don't
Same
expect
here,
like
and I'd always heard of it as, oh, it's this super cool show, and you watch it, and it's like, oh, it's all right. Then you watch it the second time, and all this stuff jumps out at you that you didn't notice the first time. And I haven't done my rewatch yet. I figure I'll do that. I'll definitely do it, but probably not for a while.
Yeah.
Though even after the first watch, I can, and, going over TV tropes to see all the stuff I missed, I can definitely see a lot of the stuff that'll jump out next time.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, sort of a tentative recommendation, not for everybody.
So, other aspects of the show. What did you think of the? What did y'all think of the soundtrack and the music for it? I definitely like the opening. The opening I did like.
I also like how with the opening and the ending, there's a lot of sort of scenes that make more sense as you watch the show.
Yeah.
And like especially the ending ends with a picture of this room with Quan in it at the beginning, and then at the end it's the same room but she's now missing.
Yeah.
And then when they're evacuating the island because the Mulians are about to come and murder everyone, that's what you see is her standing up and leaving the room.
Yeah. Which I
So
thought,
was it-
which I thought was really nice. Noelle, what did you think of the soundtrack?
yeah, I actually liked it. Because I found out that the Yoko Kanno was composed the opening.
Yeah.
And I
I can definitely see that.
I think like overall like I enjoyed it. Like because like I feel like the soundtrack was better than like Gundam Wing, because like in Gundam Wing like they overused a lot of
Yeah.
of a lot of like specific tracks, but I didn't feel like that for this series.
And then the character designs. I know, Noelle, you said before we started that you felt a lot of the character designs were sort of flat and uninteresting.
Yeah, because I feel like the character designs felt a little too generic. Like they weren't that memorable.
Yeah. I thought they were fine, personally. This was animated by Studio Bones. It was like the third thing that they had done. And for me, I thought everything looked nice, aged really well. But I do agree, especially like in some scenes, especially where there are like still frames and there's no motion and the camera is just focusing on two characters in a room, that the character designs do look a little flat.
Yeah. It's also definitely got that sort of old anime look.
Yeah, it definitely has like the old, like after, like it's sort of in that weird like post 90s, but like pre mid 2000s like look that anime had.
But I feel like it was like in between, like it was like after the 90s, but like before like the 2000s design. Like it was like a design that was like in the middle.
Yeah. That's something you notice with a lot of anime between that time, is that they all have like they all have like that same feel, but there's no like established like, look that they're that everyone kind of uses as a baseline.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the style was kind of still developing.
Yeah.
Or like a show would have like a very distinct style.
Yeah, and then we get on to the mecha designs, and the mecha designer for Rah-Rah-RahXephon was Kazutaka Miyatake. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. And he has a pretty nice rap sheet for things he has designed. He did a lot of work on Space Battleship Yamato and Macross and Gunbuster. And he was also the conceptual designer for another one of Studio Bones' works that we'll get to in a couple of months, Eureka 7. So I like this is another show like where like I sort of enjoyed the the side character and like tertiary designs. Like I really like the look of the Vermilion and its mass-produced variants. The Dolems, as horrifying as they look, they're interesting and varied enough from one another. And like for the Rah-Xephon itself, I like the overall design. I just don't care for the head wings. Literally the only thing.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of designed the Rah-Xephon to look like weird and unnerving.
Yeah.
Because it kind of looks it kind of doesn't look right.
Yeah, it would.
If you think about it,
it would have like red eyes when like normal stuff was happening, but when like it would go into like berserk mode or whatever, the red eyes would flip up, and the eyes would be yellow with like black pupils.
Like it actually has like human eyes instead of just the glass plate or whatever.
Yeah. Which
I
thought was
personally
a nice
really like the Rah-Xephon design, even the head wings and all.
And then there are also other designs that show up for like the stuff that Terra uses, like the jets that are piloted by the group of pilots. I thought those looked really interesting.
Wait, so are those jets like actual jets?
No, not those. They look like an experimental like jet you can unlock in Ace Combat, but no, they're not based on anything as far as I know. They're just like, futuristic forward swept wing, like fighter jets with like future tech in them.
So that these just basically like just takes inspiration.
Yeah,
from like,
I see inspiration from several different modern day high tech jet fighters in them. I see a lot of DNA in that, which I think it's funny. I can only imagine like the Japanese self defense force, like in Tokyo Jupiter, like when they're getting attacked, or when Terra busts in to get Ayato out at the beginning of the show, like. The JSDF is like flying like the same jets that they have today. Like I just imagine like the horror on their face when they see like this like weird futuristic thing coming at them. So yeah, that's Rah-Xephon, and I think we all recommended it, so that's 3 out of 3.
Yeah,
I can live with those odds. Is there anything you did? I mean, I know we've touched on it, the parts that we liked and we didn't like as we went through it. But just to sort of list off a couple bullet points, is there anything like you particularly didn't like?
Oh, I think another thing is just like the way it kind of drips feeds you the mysteries. Like it feels like it strings you along for far too long.
Yeah.
Without actually giving out any information.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like my biggest thing is that it sort of goes Monster of the Week for 2 episodes at a time, and then just whips back to being entirely about the main theme.
Yeah.
Like, instead of either being a Monster of the Week with the thing sort of simmering on the back burner, or just focusing on that, it sort of throws you off at times.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, make up your mind.
Another thing is that like some episodes have like real highs, and then some episodes have like real lows.
Yeah.
As well. So it's like, make up your mind.
Yeah. Like the good episodes of Rah-Xephon are like really good, but the ones that are just okay, they're kind of like they're very okay. But yeah, so that's Rah-Xephon, and next month we'll be covering, just in time for its 25th anniversary, the King of Braves himself, Gal Gaigar. Looking forward to that one. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So, and now we just talk about is there anything you've been watching on your own outside of Rah-Xephon?
Well,
or reading or doing. It doesn't have to be like anime or whatever.
Let's see. showing once again my love of slice of life romantic comedies, the manga Horimiya finally got an anime, and it's pretty good. I speak as somebody who's definitely a fan of the manga, so I am biased as all hell, but it really did well. It lived up to my expectations. So let that be your recommended slice of life from this mecha podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, I think like the other anime I've been watching is just like stuff that's like airing this season, like Re:Zero Part 2, and then I'm watching an isekai as well, like this season, Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. It's like one of like the OG isekais that's finally getting an anime at that, like getting an anime. And like the studio was created just to make this anime, and so far it's really good. I'd recommend that.
Yeah, I got caught up on My Hero. I forgot how much I enjoyed that show, and then after I finished Razafon earlier this week, I started watching Keep Your Hands Off Izuken, and that's actually really good. I really like that.
Yeah, I've only watched the first episode of that, and it's like a love letter to like anime and animation in general.
I've only watched the opening to it several times, but yeah, I've also heard that it's really good.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
And it is a very catchy opening.
Yes, it's very catchy. So much so it's like actually in like my YouTube playlist. I don't normally do that. So
because the opening is catchy, and I think it's also on Spotify, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
I know like the band's other songs are on Spotify, I think.
There's been just a bunch of anime stuff showing up on Spotify recently, which is super great.
Oh no! I think the past like 2 years, Spotify has been like slowly adding more anime songs.
Yeah,
because like last year was like they had I think last year they had like a sizable like library of anime songs.
Yeah,
and they only just been adding more.
And we'll be sure to hear about it from our mutual friend that we know, who will be sure to tell us about it when it happens, as soon as it happens. You two know you two know who exactly I'm talking about.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're listening to this podcast,
we love you.
You know,
I promise. I say it. I say it with good faith. I'm not making fun of you. I promise.
If not for you, we wouldn't know these things, and we're happy knowing these things.
Absolutely. So. That's all for this month's episode. We'll see you next month when we talk about the King of Braves himself, Galgaigar. Till then,
all right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
See you later.